Welcome to Winning Every Living Day. I'm Aurelie Cormier, and together with Dr. Pat, we will help you to envision the life of your dreams. This is the space where women like you are inspired to believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and your ability to create a life you truly love. Together, we'll explore health and wellness, relationships, careers, and the small but powerful baby steps that lead to lasting transformation. Because no matter where you start, life is meant for joy, happiness, and abundance, whether in vibrant health, loving connections, fulfilling work, or freedom of time and money. Here, you'll learn to reflect, visualize, feel, and take action so you can manifest the life you deserve. Let's step into your power and start winning every living day together.
Welcome, everyone. What a special show we have planned for you today. And you know what? I gotta say this. When Aurelie decided to start a show called Winning Every Living Day, you kind of light up on the inside because we hear the words winning, and yet we don't really embrace the fact that this could be us. Then the second part is embracing winning every living day. But that is Orly's passion. That is her purpose. And so the many shows you've heard her do and heard us do together, it has always been about your well-being in some way, whether we're talking about health or we're talking about nutrition or we're talking about things that are out there that you may or may not know about. Today, this is so vital. Gifting a good health trust fund for your baby. See, back in the day, they didn't even understand what was good for the baby. They didn't. My mama drank and used, had no idea. But fast forward to where we are. And you do need someone like Aurelie to guide you on a pathway so that your family, your well being, your baby, all of the above can win every living day. Aurelie, thank you for picking this topic.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad, because each month I try to think what is the most important thing that I can share with people this month? And of course, this is the month of holidays. And during holidays, we're thinking about giving presents to people, right? And so when it comes to our children, oftentimes we're thinking about, what is the toy we're going to give them? What is the sports equipment we're going to give them? Or maybe when you're having your first baby, you're thinking about setting up a college fund for them, or you're putting money aside to invest in a trust fund. So when they get to be an adult, they have enough money to maybe buy their first house or do something that really lights them up. But having the experiences that I've had with my patients where I saw what they endured in their life. And usually the first question they asked me was, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And I had, when I was involved with my program in cancer prevention at UMass Worcester, I had to write a paper on how was I going to set up my cancer prevention program? And I read this really insightful book by Dr. David Barker. He's one of the premier epidemiologists in England. And he wrote this book called uh, Mothers, Babies, and Health in Later Life. And what he discerned from all, because in England, they have taken records, I mean, really detailed records on babies when they're born and their weight and the mother's weight and their conditions, and then followed them through life on the different health challenges that they've had. And what he was able to discern is that what happens in pregnancy is so important to the health of that baby, not just when they're born, but can be according to what happens throughout their life. And also for 3 or 4 generations down the line, like their children, their grandchildren, their great grandchildren. So oftentimes the health in our life is based on what was happening with our grandparents
Yeah.
when they conceived our parents. and the epigenetics that surrounded our genes and our DNA that then influences our health or our illness throughout our life today. So I thought to myself several years ago, wonder if, in addition to setting up a college fund or a trust fund, we set up a good health trust fund. So we give our babies the best chance of living a long and healthful life. And as Dr. Pat and other people know, it doesn't just happen. There needs to be an intention behind it. We have to, like, think about, well, what is it that we would love for ourselves, for our babies,
Hmm.
our spouses, for our family as a whole, and create that. And then we can set up that good template for our children to live a longer, healthier life. And so I developed a program. It's a 6-week program called Creating Optimal Resilience in Pregnancy. And I want to share one of the couples that attended my workshop this last spring that I just have so much admiration for. And I'm sure that when you hear their story, you're going to have a lot of admiration for them too. They were, a husband and wife. I believe they were in their early to mid 30s. They had one little girl who was 3 years old, who was the sweetest, most beautiful child. And you could tell, and I'll call her Elizabeth. That wasn't her real name. And I'll call the couple Tracy and James, and that's not their real name either. But the husband and wife were both vegan. And obviously, the little girl had been brought up as a vegan. And she was you could see that she was very attentive to what was ever going on. When during the workshop, she would sit with her mom and she would look at me and, she'd want to talk to me. And it was so cute. But she was also very calm. She wasn't a child that was hyperactive and here and there and everywhere. She would sit with her mom during the an hour and a half that we had, and sometimes she would get up, but she'd always come back to sit with her mom. And I just thought, what a wonderful beginning this child is having. And the fact that they obviously had taken really good care of this little girl, they were coming to my workshop because they wanted to make sure they were doing everything possible to give their second baby the best chance of having a long and healthful life. And there is no great, I can tell you, and you know yourself, there's no greater gift than giving your children a long and
Yeah.
healthful life without risks of different, health challenges, because it's hard when you have a
Yeah.
health challenge.
But don't you
So,
also believe in this case too? And let's just point this out. People don't know what they don't know now.
yeah,
Life was so much simpler, right? Grandma used to make the soup,
yeah. And
whatever,
grow the vegetables in
grow
the
the vegetables.
backyard.
But we're in a different time now.
We
And we
are.
don't even know what we don't know. Grandma didn't have to deal with the cell phone that you're sticking in your bra,
Right,
right?
right,
But this is a whole new way to help people understand where we are today in the world and where the world is going.
right. And so that's why I think that it's so important that we live with intention. And one of the things that I can offer, because this is what was that I learned through my one of my mentors. I have many mentors, but one of my mentors, Mary Morrissey, and she
Yeah.
taught us how to manifest our dreams in our life and how you can sit down. And this is something that a couple, when they're deciding that they want to have a baby, they can sit down and decide what are the things that are really important that they want to offer this child in this life. And, you can think of the 4 pillars of health and wellness, of relationships and career and time and money freedom. And so, when I think of the 5 pillars, that's some of them, but there's also positive relationships in there. there's serenity and, reducing the stress in your life and having enough sleep so that your brain can detoxify at night while you're sleeping. And then your spirituality, which has nothing to do with religion. It's basically, we are, as we talked about in our last session, we are spiritual beings that come into this earthly life and inhabit a body. And we have a connection to the divine, the universal spirit, and what is our purpose in this lifetime. And when we can live from our passion and our dreams, we can actually manifest a beautiful life. So for myself, I decided I wanted to manifest a man in my life. And so you think about, what are write down, what are the most important things for you when you are starting your family? What are the most important things to you that you want to give this baby? What's the most important things for you in terms of the family life that you want to create? What's the most important things to you in terms of the relationship that you have with your spouse? Because that is a really important part of this whole, healthy and loving family life. And so once you figure out what your dream is, and and you can write in great detail, and then you start visualizing it and visualize what you see your baby, the good health that they have a beautiful smile on their face, that they laugh, they engage with you, that they're walking, that they get to do the things that they love, and then you feel it every day. Not only are you visualizing it, but you feel it every day as if it's happening now. And then you take the action steps to make that happen. So, what are some of the action steps you can take? And what I feel is ideal is if you can start a year before pregnancy and you're eating those healthy foods, those whole colorful fruits and vegetables, the whole grains, the beans, legumes, if you're a meat eater, the lean meats, the size of the palm of your hand 4 or 5 times a month, um, as well as the good healthy fats, the nuts, the seeds, the olive oil, the avocado, which has really healthy fats in it. As Dr. Sears would say, when my daughter was young, I was listening to Dr. Sears all the time, and he said, babies have fat brains, fat heads, and you want to feed them those good fats, those healthy fats. So I would think about that all the time. I want to give her, she's a fathead, so I want to give her healthy fats. But those are that's the nourishment that can actually feed the good template of what's going to set them up for good health as they're growing as babies in the womb, as they're growing after they deliver, and then because those first 3 years after they're born, that's when the brain is really developing quite a bit. It's the template has been formed. All the various structures of the brain are forming in that second trimester. So if we can eat good healthy fats, especially in the second trimester, we're giving the brain a better chance for those good neural connections, because 60% of the nerve cells in the brain are made of fat, and good healthy fat. And then also, if you have any cancer in your family, taking an inventory of your environment. So when you're pregnant, they're not being exposed to any of those toxins, or the least amount of toxins as possible. Because as we've talked about, there's 86,000 chemicals in our environment today that were not there even 50 years ago. And, there's been many more since World War II. And those toxins can really impact on not only our health, but babies are so small. Though that first trimester, they may be the size of your thumb. It doesn't take a lot of that chemical to impact. We used to think that the placenta would prevent those different chemicals from coming in and the baby being exposed to it. But what we've learned over time is no, that comes, it comes in through the blood vessels in the placenta. And so the baby is exposed to a lot of those chemicals. So we want to be really careful about our environment, whether that's in the
Yeah.
house, on the yard, at work. Having worked with a lot of chemo, women who are pregnant need to be much more careful. And then in our playtime, which, in terms of playtime, brings me to avoiding things like caffeine, alcohol in pregnancy, because that does impact on our health, the baby's health, especially avoiding any drugs such as marijuana. It turns out marijuana decreases the neural connections in the brain. So, especially for a fetus who is trying to form those different elements of the brain, that can impact on good connections. And if they don't get good connections when they're forming, in utero, they probably are not going to get them later on. So it's so important to be very aware of that. I know another thing that a lot of young people are doing today are psychedelics. That's something you definitely do not want to be doing in pregnancy. Cocaine, heroin, because they all can impact on the brain, the different parts of the body, the nervous system. And the other thing is, if you have any genetic conditions in your family, you may want to ask for a genetic uh, counselor to go over, are there certain things that you need to be aware of so that you can help your baby to have the best chance as they're growing and developing in the womb. And then, after delivery, as they're growing and developing. Also, ensuring that you're up to date on your vaccines before you get pregnant. So, this is another thing why it's helpful if you, and believe me, as someone who is a single mom, 50% of all pregnancies are unplanned, whether married or not married. So, we're talking, part of this is you hope that people can plan their pregnancies, but obviously 50% of the time that doesn't happen. So then we do the best that we can. But in terms of vaccines, if you're planning on a pregnancy, at least if you can do it a year before, but if not, a couple months before you decide to get pregnant, make sure you're up to date on all your vaccines, especially the hepatitis B vaccine, the HPV vaccines, flu, COVID, HIB, which is Haemophilus influenza type B, the MMR, the varicella, which is your chickenpox vaccine, because the ones that cannot be taken in pregnancy are the HPV, the MMR, the varicella, and smallpox. So if you can have those done before you ever get pregnant, that's so much better. The other thing is having a good dental checkup, because it turns out any issues with your teeth, any infections, or in your teeth or your gums, can impact on the development and the health of the baby in utero. And then ensure that you have a good GYN exam before you get pregnant, and be screened for any sexually transmitted infections, so that that is not an issue either that can affect the
Yeah.
baby.
So basically, too, what we're seeing is, and I'm going to go back to this,
Yep,
even 20 years ago, the things that moms had to think about are exponentially increased in the world we live in
absolutely.
today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, it is a different world out there. I can't tell you how many times I see, like you were saying, women putting their cell phone in their bra right next to their heart, their breast. I mean, the amount of radio frequency today from these cell phones is a lot more than before and can be harmful. So, especially if you're pregnant, you don't want to be having your cell phone near your belly, that is going to actually been sending radio frequency waves to your baby. That is, that can negatively impact on your baby too. So just be aware of that. I tell people all the time, and I see people holding their phones up right by their ear. That radio frequency is going right into your brain. Not such a good thing. So, and if you actually go on YouTube, you can see how much the radio frequencies are of the phones today. They're actually a lot more than you would think. So I tell people all the time, don't hold the phone near your head, near your breast or your heart, and not in your pelvic area where all your, your pelvic organs are. So, because it can have an impact, you're much better off if you can use the earbuds or hold the phone away from yourself, have you on speakerphone if you
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah, and that is so very important. The other thing is there are devices out now that you know of, simple things that can absorb things. So if you're a mom and you got that laptop, do not put that thing on your lap. I don't care what
Right.
you call it, that's not going to work. But there are also things, salt lamps, certain things that are out there now to absorb that, especially if you are a working mom and you are working from home.
Right. And the other thing that I found really helpful is, oftentimes when we create this life of our dreams, the life of dreams for our baby or our spouse, right? Those little paradigms come up saying, "Oh, who do you think you are? You think that you're going to create the life of your dream for your baby, or you're going to create the life of your dream with your spouse? Oh, you haven't had that before. What makes you think that you can do that now? Or you always screwed it up before, you're going to screw it up again." And so what I've had to say to myself, and this is what Mary taught us, which was so helpful, we have these little paradigms that are going to bubble up along the way, even if we're visualizing and feeling our dream every single day. It's just take a deep breath and then take your hand and sweep it back and say, "That was then, and this
This
is
is
now.
now. Mm,
That was then, and this is now. Maybe that happened in my past, but I am being my best self. I believe in myself, and I can win every living day. It's may take time, that's okay, but just trust. You don't have to worry about the how, just trust the universe is going to provide that for you." And I know there's a lot of couples today who are having trouble getting pregnant.
mm,
If you've been trying for a year and you haven't been able to get pregnant yet, then go and have that checked out. And, there may be a reason for that that can be corrected. And then, so to give you a better chance of getting pregnant, and then just keep believing this or something greater still, that it will happen. Because I know that that was really helpful for me, is not getting so stressed about it, intense and worked up about it, but just say this or something greater still, and just keep believing in your dreams because they can happen. The other thing that I want to bring up is, believe it or not, as much as pregnancy can be so exciting, and you think about the baby and you start feeling the baby, and there's all these baby showers and things, it is a very stressful time. And as it turns out, that there 20% of all women experience violence in pregnancy, because a lot of stress and tension can come up because the focus isn't just on the couple together, it's now on the pregnant woman and the baby. And so it's really important to take the time to nourish your relationship, be honest with each other, communicate, have respect for each other. And if you are in a relationship, like 20% of some women who are, that they experience violence, talk to a social worker privately. Sometimes men will come to the appointments and they won't leave their the woman's side because they have so much control over them. I've seen that happen. But maybe send them a text message or an email saying, "I need your help and I need to talk to you privately," so that you can find out, talk to the social worker, find out where you can get help and feel safe. Maybe you need to go to a shelter.
mm.
It turns out about 20% of all couples within a year after delivery of the baby will get divorced, because there's so much stress and tension within the relationship where they're not focused on each other anymore. They're focused on the baby. So, what one recommendation I would have, and you find your own experts, but one recommendation is, at least one night a week, have a little date night, so that you and your spouse, you and your partner, can come together you put the baby to bed early, or you find a babysitter
Mm,
to watch over them for just a couple hours, and you have this time just for each other to continue to nurture your relationship,
yeah,
so that the husband has a chance to spend personal time with his wife, the wife or the partner has special time to spend
yeah.
together, and they can refocus back on each other and know how important
Mm,
each other is to this relationship. It's not just about the
yeah.
baby.
So there's a lot here that people
Yes,
really could learn from. But, you know, in the minute we have left, how do people take this class with you? How do they work with you? How do they get an inside story? How do they do this now? Because this is the what.
right.
Often you need the how and you need support. What's the best way for people to do that?
They can go to my website, aureliecormier.com. I will be having another masterclass for couples after the new year. And then I will, around the second week in January, I'll be starting my new 6 week workshop for creating optimal resilience in pregnancy. Because the exciting thing is, this time of year with all the holidays and special times off and the food and everything, this is a time when a lot of people get pregnant. And then
Mm-hmm.
what happens 9 months later? It's the beginning of September and it's a dual Labor Day. So you have Labor Day to, honor all the people that are working, and you
Mm-hmm.
have Labor Day for all the women that are, birthing babies. It's a
Hmm.
really, high time during the year for women to be birthing babies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for those of you who may be getting pregnant this holiday season, I'll be doing another workshop in January that I would love
Awesome.
to have you. I don't have it posted on my website yet, but I will, and I can announce it the third week in December when I
Awesome.
do that one.
What's your website? Let's make sure people have that.
Yes, it's my first name, Aurelie, Aurelie, my last name, Cormier, Cormier.com. You go there
Orally.
and you'll see my workshops, and then the other thing, and Transformation Talk Radio is there too.
That's right. Thank you so much for this. And I'm sure we're going to be doing more on this because I'm going to say it again. Women do not know what they don't know right now in the world, and they think everything is okay. But knowledge is powerful. Thank you for all that you do,
Knowledge is
Orly.
power. Yes, thank you,
Thank you.
Dr. Pat. Have a great week.
And all of you out there, please get a hold of Orly. Even if you have a question, all questions are welcome. We'll see you next
Yes.
time.
Okay. You've been listening to the Winning Every Living Day with me, Aurelie Cormier, with Dr. Pat. I'm so glad you joined us on this journey of believing in yourself and taking the steps toward a life you truly love. Be sure to tune in every first Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time on Transformation Talk Radio for more inspiration, tools, and strategies to support your health, your relationships, and your dreams. And if you're ready for deeper transformation, sign up for my master classes and workshops by visiting my website, aureliecormier.com. These powerful programs provide the extra support and guidance that can make an enormous impact in helping you achieve the life you've been dreaming of. Until next time, remember, you have what it takes to start winning every living day.